When you see Donald Trump sitting in front of a portrait of George Washington, you realize how ridiculous this whole thing is. Melania did not take part in the customary First Lady meeting with Dr. Jill Biden today. Apparently, she had Crying in the Dark scheduled for this morning. And oh, no, she can't come. Please give her my be best, okay? Melania's office did release a statement. The statement said, Melania declined the First Lady's invitation to visit, which I'm sure Jill Biden was heartbroken.
It was supposed to be just another night in late-night television. The lights dimmed, the audience clapped, and Jimmy Kimmel took the stage with his usual blend of sarcasm, swagger, and satire. But what unfolded during that monologue didn't just poke fun at politics or policy, it struck at the heart of the Trump family, specifically at Melania Trump. In a shocking, no-holds-barred segment, Kimmel didn't just make jokes. He dissected, mocked, and exposed what he called the uncomfortable truth about Melania's marriage to Donald Trump. And within hours, word leaked from Mar-a-Lago that Melania was absolutely livid. Kimmel's monologue started light, as always. A few jabs about Trump's latest rally, a sarcastic comment about Ron DeSantis's polling numbers.
People always asking me, what was your favorite memory as First Lady? It was in 2020 when Donald get the China virus and he was airlifted to hospital like sick elephant. Too many smiling. Sadly, the elephant make it.
Yeah, it's humpy time.
Oh, elephant find me. When is he going to jail?
But then his tone shifted. He held up a tabloid photo from years ago, Melania swatting away Trump's hand at an event, and said, "You know, we used to think this was just a one-time thing, but after all the clips we've seen, I'm starting to think that Melania's hand is the most elusive object in American politics, second only to Trump's tax returns." The audience roared, but that was just the warm-up. Kimmel began rolling a rapid-fire video montage, clip after clip of Melania looking away from Trump, pulling her hand back, frowning at his touch, or walking several steps ahead. Set to romantic music for added sarcasm, the edit was brutal. It told a story without saying a word. When the video ended, Kimmel deadpanned, "If that's love, then I'm the next bachelor." It was funny to some. To others, it was cruel. But to Melania Trump, it was infuriating.
But what these reviewers don't realize is that it's not just a book, it's also a fragrance. I will say that I was reading some of the reviews of the book, and they are not excellent. Vanity Fair says Melania Trump's new book is truly bad.
Sources close to her say she was watching that very night, or at least was alerted to the segment within minutes of it airing. Screenshots flew across social media. The clip racked up millions of views within hours. But it wasn't the jokes that bothered her. It was the insinuation. Because what Kimmel implied wasn't just that the Trumps had an awkward moment. He implied that their entire marriage was a lie. Kimmel didn't stop there. He pulled out a printed copy of Melania's infamous Be Best campaign materials, held them up, and said, "This was Melania's attempt to promote kindness and anti-bullying, while married to the human Twitter troll. I mean, that's like giving a fire safety award to a guy holding a flamethrower in a fireworks factory." The audience laughed again. But Kimmel then launched into the real bombshell. An anonymous quote allegedly from a former White House aide who worked closely with the First Lady during her time in Washington. According to Kimmel, the source claimed Melania had once referred to her marriage as a business arrangement and had a private suite of rooms she never allowed Trump to enter. The monologue suggested she negotiated her time in the public eye like a contract. Appearances, events, even holidays. Melania, Kimmel quipped, was basically the CEO of her own company, Stay Married Inc. Whether the quote was real or not didn't seem to matter in that moment. It had entered the bloodstream of pop culture. The line was repeated endlessly across social media, in online forums, and on cable news. Memes exploded. Commentators weighed in, and behind the gilded doors of Mar-a-Lago, Melania Trump was said to be seething. According to people familiar with the situation, Melania saw the segment not just as a personal attack, but as a public humiliation. She spent years crafting an image of quiet dignity, Often misunderstood but never loud. She rarely grants interviews, never responds to gossip, and typically keeps herself out of her husband's media storms. But this time, the attack hit a nerve, because it wasn't just aimed at Trump, it was aimed at her character, her marriage, and her choices. She felt exposed, one insider said. Not politically, personally. That's different, that's deeper. By the next morning, conservative media began reacting. Fox News hosts called Kimmel a coward, claiming he was using Melania to get cheap laughs. Some called it misogynistic. Others argued that mocking a first lady's private life was beyond the pale, especially when she wasn't an elected official. But Kimmel, as always, didn't back down. On his show the next night, he doubled down. "Apparently, some people didn't like what I said about Melania," he smirked, "to which I say, be best." He then pulled out a fake cease and desist letter addressed from Melania Trump, CO Ice Castle, Mar-a-Lago, and read it in a faux European accent. The audience laughed again, but Melania didn't. Privately, she began pressing advisors for options. According to reports, she asked whether legal action could be taken, not necessarily to sue Kimmel, but to force a retraction or halt further segments. She also reached out to trusted friends and former aides, asking whether anyone had leaked personal information. One source even claimed she was paranoid. Someone in her circle had betrayed her. It wasn't about the jokes. It was about the truth behind them. Because buried beneath the satire were real cracks. The Trumps have long been dogged by rumors of marital tension, separate bedrooms, separate vacations, body language experts tearing apart every public appearance. While Trump has dismissed the speculation, Melania has always remained silent. But silence, as they say, speaks volumes. And now, thanks to Kimmel, that silence was being filled with 1,000 jokes and 1,000,000 assumptions. Donald Trump, for his part, reacted as expected. On Truth Social, he called Kimmel a failing loser and a third-rate late-night hack. He said Kimmel's ratings were in the toilet and that everyone loves Melania, especially me. But even Trump allies noticed the defensiveness. Behind closed doors, some admitted the segment had struck a chord. "He hates when people go after Melania," one aide said. "He thinks it's crossing the line, but at the same time, he also knows that people see through the cracks, and Jimmy Kimmel just put a spotlight on them." What followed was a media frenzy. Every tabloid, from Page 6 to TMZ, jumped on the story. Analysts debated whether the marriage was real, political, or performative. Old interviews were resurfaced. A clip from Barbara Walters asking Melania if she'd still be with Trump if he weren't rich went viral all over again. Her answer, "If I weren't beautiful, do you think he'd be with me?" was dissected like scripture. The First Lady, who had once been a mystery, was now a meme. Inside Mar-a-Lago, Melania reportedly retreated further from public life. She canceled a planned appearance with Trump at a private donor event in Miami. She skipped a high-profile gala in Palm Beach. According to insiders, she felt blindsided, not just by Kimmel, but by the media's gleeful reaction. To her, the coverage wasn't about comedy or free speech. It was about a relentless culture that refused to let her live on her own terms. "She never asked for this," a friend said. "She's not a politician. She didn't run for anything. But because she married Donald, she's become a target." And Jimmy Kimmel just opened the floodgates again. But despite the outrage, despite the backlash, Kimmel's segment tapped into something the public can't ignore: curiosity. For years, Melania's distance, her quietness, her occasional swats and glares have fueled speculation. Was it a fairy tale gone cold? A power play? A silent protest? Kimmel didn't claim to know the answers, but by asking the questions in front of millions, he did something few dared to do. He challenged the narrative. And in doing so, he turned America's most silent First Lady into a subject of very loud conversation. The fallout hasn't ended. Days after the monologue, Melania marriage was still trending. Social media was filled with users dissecting photos, theorizing about body language, debating whether Melania was trapped or calculating. Every appearance she made or didn't make was read as a signal. The quiet woman who once said, "Don't underestimate me," was now at the center of a national guessing game.